The season starts off with Marty and Wendy dancing at a benefit where they discuss where they would like to live. Darlene and Ash get rid of Del Rio's body. Jonah and Charlotte talk about the incident where Jonah pulled a gun on Garcia. Ruth talks on behalf of her father in front of the parole board. Marty finds out that Rachel had stolen a portion of the $50 million he kept hidden. Marty and the Snells move forward with their business arrangement with Del's attorney, Helen, in order to launder money through a casino that will be built in 6 months. Marty wants 3% of the casino's profits so he and his family can escape after the money laundering process is self-sufficient. Before going home with Cade, Ruth proves that Russ was a rat who was going to frame her for attempted murder. Before going to the benefit, Marty goes to talk to Ruth where he is introduced to Cade. Helen gets a man killed in order to obtain security footage that was supposed to show Del Rio using his credit card in Chicago. Wendy talks to Charles Wilkes about the casino business plan. Helen finds out that Marty lied about Del Rio and wants reparations for Del Rio's death by Marty. Jacob kills Ash as payment for Darlene killing Del Rio. Wendy and Charles move forward with the business plan. Marty runs into a trust problem with the Snells and the Mexicans. Darlene goes to an agency in hopes of adopting a child. Wendy feels guilty about the repercussions that her actions have caused Mason in his life. Ruth buys the tugboat for Marty. Marty and Buddy go visit Frank. Wendy goes to the strip club to find Ruth, but instead employs a stripper named Lulu for help. With Buddy's help, Marty manages to get Frank to pass the bill for the casino. Wendy videotapes the stripper with a law official in order to extort a vote on the bill. Cade robs a diner and tells Ruth that he plans on robbing Marty with her help. A drugged-out Rachel gets into a car accident. The last vote is taken care of by Charles and the bill is passed. Agent Petty wants to use Rachel as a CI in order to get to Marty. Senator Tim Blake commits suicide in his office after a brush with the press. Cade wants Marty to hire him, but Cade won't actually work. Marty finds out that Ruth pretty much told Cade that she murdered his brothers. One by one, Marty's businesses are shutting down. Ruth tries to find another business to launder money through. The Snells show up at Marty's house unhappy because Charles wants to turn their land into a theme park. Afterward, Marty, Jacob, Buddy, and Jonah go hunting where Jonah kills a deer. Rachel comes back to help reopen the Blue Cat. Charlotte and Jonah deceptively open a bank account. Wendy attends Senator Tim Blake's funeral. Wendy manipulates Mrs. Blake into dropping the wrongful death lawsuit against Charles. Jacob Snell destroys Charles Wilkes' boat. After Jacob and Darlene have sex, after that, Darlene tells Jacob she wants to have a baby. Rachel goes undercover. Ruth forcefully acquires a boat business. Marty essentially fires Ruth after the birds have dinner at the Snells. Wendy suspects that Marty's office may be bugged by the feds. Wendy questions Rachel as to why she chose to come back now to the Blue Cat and not before given all the times that Marty has called. After Buddy collapses and goes to the hospital, the birds are fearful that he is on the verge of death. After Rachel fucks a random guy in a bathroom, she returns to the bar and bonds with Ruth about the kind of person Marty is. Rachel exposes Agent Petty in a heated argument with Marty. Agent Petty takes Rachel into the woods and scares the shit out of her for revealing him, but gives her a second chance. During a game of horseshoes with Ruth, Rachel finally manages to give Agent Petty some useful information. FBI agents barge into the birds' home and begin searching for the place before Marty and Agent Petty meet for the first time. During a search of the bird home, an agent found $4,600 in Charlotte's lunchbox, which was enough evidence to bring Marty in for questioning. Helen represents Marty during Agent Petty's questioning. Jacob brings a young boy named Wally into their home as a solution to Darlene wanting to have a child to raise. Helen wants Jacob to destroy his poppy fields before the feds come and investigate, but Jacob won't do it unless he is compensated. Ruth is scared shitless after being blindsided by Agent Petty before entering the strip club. Darlene is willing to have the fields destroyed in exchange for a baby. Agent Petty continues to act like a douchebag when he questions Wendy in front of their home. Marty goes to Ruth's house to see if he can trust her. Helen and her thugs arrive at the Langmores, tying up Marty and Cade before brutally interrogating Ruth, while Wendy goes to the Snells and gives Darlene adoption options and Buddy destroys the poppy fields out back. Buddy dies in a passenger seat on the way home with Wendy. Ruth is reeling from the physical abuse she suffered from her interrogation. The feds look for Del Rio's body at the Snell compound. The Bird family is having a hard time adjusting to Buddy's death. The feds manage to excavate some scattered bones, which Agent Petty believes to be Del Rio's. Charles makes a deal with Agent Petty that he has immunity and Wendy has protection, and he will tell Agent Petty everything about Marty. A bruised Ruth shows up at the Blue Cat to ask Rachel for some oxy and warn her not to associate with Agent Petty. After Jonah gets suspended for a week, he reveals to his parents that he has been laundering money in 2 offshore accounts. There is a big funeral held for Buddy. The DNA test results come back, and the bones were a dead family relative of Jacob. Jonah delivers a heartfelt eulogy about his only real friend, Buddy. Jacob is released from jail. Rachel and Marty have a heart-to-heart conversation. Rachel and Marty start kissing before she stops and reveals that she is wearing a wire. Ruth is working with her father to steal boating equipment. Rachel fears for her life and asks Marty for help, but he cannot as it would jeopardize his family's life. Wendy gets kidnapped before an important meeting. It is revealed that the kidnapper is Mason Young, who plans to kill Wendy if Zeke, his son, isn't returned to him tomorrow morning. Marty goes to Charles Wilkes for help. Wendy tells Mason that the bones that were recovered were Grace's and that her murder was covered up. Marty and Charles work to get Zeke back in one night. Wendy hits Mason over the head with a fire extinguisher and runs out of the house before Mason chases her down and captures her again. Marty gets Zeke. Zeke is exchanged for Wendy. Mason is convinced that Marty did something to his son. Mason doesn't plan on letting Wendy and Marty go. A small struggle ensues where Marty grabs the gun and eventually shoots Mason in the neck and kills him. After crying in the car from a failed theft attempt, Ruth tells Cade she knows where Marty keeps the money. Marty is having a panic attack after killing Mason. Marty is having a tough time concentrating during a Fed questioning because he and Wendy got rid of the man he just murdered. We see past events that show Darlene putting fentanyl in the heroin that caused Rachel to collapse. Zeke will be staying with the Birds until they find him a good home. Marty visits Rachel in the hospital and wants to help her out this mess he got her in. Ruth stakes out the funeral establishment for the heist. Officer Nix questions Marty and Wendy about Mason's disappearance. Helen interrogates this drug dealer, Amos, about the spiked heroin. Marty meets with Agent Petty about freeing Rachel from him, but Agent Petty still has a hold on her. Wendy wants to use Jonah's account to send anonymous donations. Marty and Jacob get into a fight with their spouses about the rash decisions they make that affect both their lives. During a family dinner, Marty finds out that Jonah is helping Wendy and Charlotte steal a rare and expensive book. Marty uses a video of Agent Petty's mother being injected with heroin as blackmail to get Rachel her freedom back. Wendy blackmails Charles into helping her get the commission. Ruth and Cade's raid turn up empty because Marty stashed the money in Buddy's mausoleum. After Jacob and Darlene leave church and are being driven home, they are blocked by cartel thugs who shoot up the car. Charlotte wants to be emancipated from their parents. A flashback shows how and where Darlene and Jacob met when they were young before returning to the present where Jacob is suffering from a gunshot wound while fleeing heavy gunfire. Cade and Wyatt rob the strip club. Production of the casino has been halted because of Darlene. Ruth starts to get Marty's money back first by taking it from Wyatt. Charlotte proceeds with her emancipation by getting an attorney. Ruth works to get the rest of Marty's money back from Cade by ransacking his home. Marty and Wendy are trying to find a way to deal with Charlotte becoming emancipated. Agent Petty requests to be transferred to Chicago so he can return home and be with his drugged-out mother full-time. Marty and Helen met Jacob at the same diner where Jacob met Darlene. Marty legally explains that all the land that Jacob thinks he owns is actually government-owned, and if Jacob tries to fight it, they have legal recourse. Wyatt got into Mizzou, but is reluctant to go unless he finds out exactly what happened to his father. Tension rises between Darlene and Jacob because she continues to undermine him. A big fight occurs in the Bird home that causes Charlotte to leave with Wyatt in the van she purchased earlier. Jacob plans to kill Darlene and solve the Darlene problem. Darlene manages to kill Jacob first by poisoning his coffee. Marty is rushing to leave with his family and leaves the casino management to Ruth. Cade kills Agent Petty and dumps his body in the river. Darlene wants to adopt Zeke as being the only way the casino gets built. Cade needs Ruth's help in order to deal with the fact that he killed Agent Petty, but she won't help him. Darlene kidnaps Jonah and shaves his head before sending him back in order to send a message to the Birds that she has something they want and they have something she wants. Marty goes over to the Snells and gives Darlene Zeke so she stops messing with his family. Cade threatens to tell Wyatt that Ruth killed Russ if she doesn't give him money so he can leave, but Ruth goes over and tells Wyatt anyway before he takes off. Marty describes to Wendy exactly how he plans to escape with the family. Frank goes to Marty's office about the deal he made with the gaming commissioner about the casino not being a union shop. Cade attacks Charlotte because he is still trying to get Marty's money, but Ruth saves her and takes her home. Marty tries to figure out a way to save Ruth from Cade, who spends the night. Wendy gives Cade $500,000 to leave immediately and never call Ruth, but it was a ploy that ends up getting him killed. The Birds attend the ceremony where Marty gives a speech. Frank bombs the office. Ruth goes over to the coroner's to ID Cade, and Marty finds out that Cade is dead and Wendy had something to do with it before the season ends with the family taking a photo. Well, guys, that's it for the recap of Ozark Season 2. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, hit the subscribe button, and until the next time, binge on.